So, next up das Thema Quantencomputing. Und zwar klingt erstmal so ein bisschen, habe ich schon mal bei Big Bang Theory gehört, aber keine Sorge, das wird hier keine Physikvorlesung. Wir reden gleich darüber, wie diese Technologie unser Leben, unsere Wirtschaft und vielleicht sogar unser nächstes Handy verändern kann. Also Brains on, Headsets on and let's dive into the quantum world. Kurz noch zur Erklärung für die, die hier sitzen. Die Headsets nachher entweder auf dem Platz liegen lassen oder gerne zurücklegen, damit wir hier up-to-date sind. Und diese Vorstellung der Kollegen hört ihr gleich auch nur über die Headsets. In diesem Sinne, ich habe zwei Gastredner dazu eingeladen. Let's go, please welcome Lory Thorpe from IBM and Luke Ibbetson from Vodafone. The stage is yours.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Great to be here with you all. So my name is Luke Ibbetson. I lead the R&D team at Vodafone Group.
And my name is Lory Thorpe. I'm part of IBM Research, and I am focusing on quantum safe for industries.
IBM. So quantum is not new. It's actually been a century since the foundations of quantum science were laid, unraveling the mysteries of particles, energy, even the universe itself. So as we celebrate the 100th year of quantum, and actually 2025 has been declared the year of quantum, with Vodafone and IBM, we're not just celebrating this as a centenary, we're building on it. So Vodafone is on a mission to make ourselves a quantum-ready, quantum-safe company. We see this as a transformation that impacts every single one of our business, technology, and commercial domains, and is probably the biggest transformation in computing that the world has seen since arguably the late 60s, early 70s. Very pleased that IBM is with us on this journey. Lory, do you want to say a couple of words?
Well, I think maybe we can talk a little bit about this slide, because often when people hear about quantum, they think of something that is very far in the future, something that is in the world of sci-fi. But in reality, quantum is actually evolving maybe quicker than people expect, and we expect quantum to make an impact over the next few years.
So in this presentation, we're going to be talking really about three things. First of all, we'll unpack a little bit about what quantum technology is, what quantum computing is. We'll then talk about some of the fantastic applications and use cases that we see being made possible by the technology. But we'll also talk about the threats that quantum computing poses to the fabric of digital society. And being here at OMR, you can see that everything is reliant on the security foundations that our digital world is built on. So we will understand a little bit more about how quantum poses a threat to that, but we'll also talk about how, with the use of some very, very clever new forms of cryptography, we can address the threat. So, Lory, what is quantum computing?
Well, we won't go too much into details around quantum computing, but I did want to share a little bit of an analogy that sort of explains why quantum computing is actually adding and complementary to some of the classical compute capabilities that we rely on today. So here behind me, you can see there's a light switch and a dimmer switch. And that is an analogy that we often use for the difference between classical computing, which, as many of you are probably aware, rely on bits. So a bit generally is sort of seen to be either on or off, so 0 or 1. When we talk about quantum computing, the analogy there, the corresponding element to the bit is something called the qubit. And the qubit, because of some of the quantum mechanical properties like superposition, is analogous to having capabilities that are not just 0 and 1, but also the positions in between. And what that does is it transforms the way that we can represent information. And that is really what is giving us those additional capabilities, those additional powerful capabilities that allows us to process information in a way that classical computing, even the most powerful classical computers, can't do. So when we talk about the next era of compute, some of you may have heard of quantum-centric supercomputing. What we're doing is we are adding new capabilities to classical computing. So it's not replacing classical computing, it's adding to classical computing. And it is really a transformative technology that will allow us to do things that we couldn't do before. And I'll be talking a little bit about some of those use cases shortly.
First of all, I think it might be worth just taking a little look at what a state-of-the-art quantum computer looks like right now.
Yeah, so state of the art, I mean, you may have seen, you may have heard some of the PR releases. There are many companies, including IBM, that are working on evolving this technology. And you've probably heard about quantum advantage. Some of you may have heard about error correction and breakthroughs in error mitigation and error correction. And all of this is happening really globally. So there are a lot of companies that are working on progressing some of these capabilities so that quantum computers become really useful and evolve their capabilities so that they become more relevant. IBM is one of the global leaders in quantum computing, and we have a published roadmap that is publicly available. We expect by 2026, we expect to have quantum computers that will be able to reach quantum advantage. So that means proving for certain problems, for certain use cases, that they can outperform what even the most powerful classical computers can do. By 2028, we expect to have the first error-corrected systems. And this is really revolutionary because these are the building blocks that will allow us to scale quantum computing capability.
So I think we should take a look at what one of these fantastic machines looks like today. So this is currently the state of the art, I would say.
Introducing the IBM Quantum System 2, the world's first modular utility-scale quantum computer system. Quantum System 2 was designed to tackle complex problems that lie far beyond the reach of today's classical supercomputers. It stands 15 feet tall and operates in a near-perfect vacuum at temperatures colder than deep space. Initially powered by three 133-qubit Heron processors, Quantum System 2 is fully upgradable to the growing line of utility-scale QPUs that IBM will be releasing over the next 5 years. This is the world's first modular utility-scale quantum system. So in addition to talking about physical qubits, we now need to be concerned with circuit size. By the end of 2024, each of the three Heron processors in Quantum System 2 will be able to process a remarkable 5,000 operations in a single quantum circuit. But the real triumph of Quantum System 2 is its modular design. Our new quantum coupling technology will allow multiple Quantum System 2s to connect together to create systems capable of running 100 million operations in a single quantum circuit. Continuing down this path, we plan to realize a system capable of running 1 billion operations in a single quantum circuit by 2033. That's why we call Quantum System 2 the building block of quantum-centric supercomputing. Today, our clients and partners are already using our 100-plus qubit systems to advance science, surpassing brute force methods deployed on the world's most powerful classical supercomputers. And soon, they expect quantum applications offering unprecedented business value. Our mission is to bring useful quantum computing to the world, and it starts with Quantum System 2.
So we deployed the first quantum computer here in Germany in October last year. We are, if you are interested in working on a real quantum computer. You can go home tonight, get a Qiskit account, and you can get access to quantum on the cloud. So that is available today. And there are many, many people, including students, including enterprises, that are already experimenting with real quantum computers today.
So just looking at that in a more commercial context, this happens to be, this is from McKinsey, I think. This number is from Boston Consulting Group. Lots of other analysts are saying the same thing, that by 2035, the quantum industry will be worth of the order of $2 trillion. The same research is also saying that because this is a transformation that's in a very early stage, early adopters of the technology stand to get the lion's share of this future commercial value. So again, I think it's a very good fit with what I see around the show in terms of people looking forward to understand how they can benefit from significant advances in the digital economy. And I think quantum computing is one of those. So it's a good place to be if you're an early adopter. I think this is a good conference to be at.
Yeah, so some examples of where we've been exploring the use of quantum computer with some of the enterprises that we've been working with. So this is a logo that all of you will recognize. So we've been working with Mercedes-Benz and Daimler around battery life. So many of you know that electric vehicles rely on having good performance batteries, and with quantum computing, we're using quantum simulation to build the next generation of batteries for electric vehicles. Another example is we're working with Boeing, and this is using quantum optimization to look at the build of ply materials. And this, again, is very, very important for the efficiency, the longevity, and the safety of airplanes, for example.
Bit of quantum clicker.
What you think you'll press? There it is. Okay, so the other use cases around is E.ON. So many of you will be familiar with E.ON as one of Europe's biggest energy suppliers. Now, the energy supply is becoming more and more complex, less predictable. If we think of the use of renewable energy. And this, again, this is a quantum optimization problem. We've broken it down into a quantum optimization problem to look at how we better manage both the demand and supply of energy. So these are 3 examples of use cases where we're looking at quantum as being able to help us solve some of these problems that have, in some cases, multiple variables, in some cases, sort of thousands of variables that can't be processed using a classical computer.
And on the Vodafone side, I said at the beginning, we're on a mission to become a quantum-ready company. So part of that means that we want to be in a position to be able to benefit from the capabilities of the technology. So we've been running a number of experiments with various, in this case, optimization challenges, looking at how we would locate cell site towers so as to be able to adapt to geographical features, buildings, traffic demand, energy consumption, reliability. This is an extremely complex problem, but the benefits of optimizing the placement of antennas translates into real benefits in terms of customer experience, the cost of operation, and the resilience of the network that we're able to provide. So this is just one example. We're looking at many different telco use cases that we believe could be applicable to this brand new capability. So together with IBM and with a range of other quantum companies, we are looking right now to understand how this technology can be applied to us.
So this is a real revolution in compute capabilities, and IBM is working with a number of companies to really explore the potential of quantum computing in helping to address some of the challenges that these different companies have across different sectors. And this exploration process is very, very important as we mature the quantum compute capabilities to ensure that we're actually able to leverage that potential to best effect.
So we're going to change gear a little bit now, and this next slide takes a little while to load. So I'm going to ask a question of the audience, and I'm hoping that you'd be brave enough to at least put your hands up. How many times today have you used something called cryptography? Does anybody use cryptography today? In reality, every single time you've used your smartphone, every time you looked at your social media, every time you checked your email, if you came here by tram or underground, you'll have used your device maybe to buy a ticket or to check in. So this is pervasive. We do not even think about the security underpinnings of the digital services that are an integral part of everyday life.
Yeah.
And
I think ultimately digital society, digital economy, it all relies on cryptography. It all relies on you trusting that what you're doing online or what you're saving or what you're accessing is secure.
Now, one of the unfortunate but inconvenient truths regarding quantum computing is that when we get to sufficient scale, quantum is also able to unravel some of the mathematical principles that sit beneath all of today's cryptography. So I think actually you go onto this first just to explain how this
so we wanted to provide, because often people don't think about cryptography and how pervasive it is in our everyday lives. So as an example, if we think about your Instagram account, and you think about how that account is trusted, is secure, how you feel confident uploading maybe your pictures or your videos. And we think of how encryption is used to secure the content. So the content will be encrypted as it is, and this is both, this applies both to data in transit and data at rest. If you think of, for example, access control, so you want to be confident that your content is accessed by the people that you want it to be accessed by and not by anybody else. Watermarking ensures that, for example, your content is not misused by somebody else, and that you've got sort of control and you've got ownership of all of that. And ultimately, this is all secured by cryptography. So this is just an example of where we're using cryptography on a day-to-day basis, often without realizing, because over the last few decades, we've been incredibly fortunate that the algorithms and the cryptography that we've used has withstood the test of time.
But that also gives a certain false sense of security when you get something of this order of transformation. So, as I'd mentioned before, quantum computers, or rather we should say cryptographically relevant quantum computers, have the ability, using certain algorithms, to reduce the time it would take to solve the mathematical challenges behind today's cryptography from tens of thousands of years down to a matter of hours. So this means that, and the example that Lory gave a moment ago about protecting your Instagram account, it's not just about other people then being able to access that account. It's also about any digital content that you might have created that's owned by you, having its ownership reassigned. Think about the same thing happening with your bank account. Think about the same thing happening with access to critical infrastructure systems. Think about what happens with connected cars. Think about what happens with traffic lights. Everything that we rely on, everything that is controlled electronically, and quantum computers at the right scale can actually allow
misuse of
that. So what would they actually be able to do?
Yeah, so if we think of, some of you may have heard of RSA. So RSA is one of the algorithms that we've relied on over the last few decades to be able to solve the prime factorization, which is the mathematical problem that underpins RSA. To be able to solve that for RSA 2048, which is commonly used today, it would take a classical computer millions of years to solve that, to actually break the cryptography. With a quantum computer, it's expected, or a sufficiently powerful quantum computer, it's expected, using Shor's algorithm, to take a matter of hours. So it's been estimated we're talking, say, 8 to 10 hours to solve that. So that is why we are now in a position where we need to be looking at the next generation of cryptography in order to avoid some of these things happening. So if we think fraudulent authentication, I can pretend to be somebody else logging into, whether it's a network, whether it's an Instagram account, whatever it may be that is being protected. Digital signatures, again, digital signatures really underpin the digital economy. If you think of the deeds for a house, if you think of how we're signing contracts, how we're signing documents, I can rewrite history. Harvest now, decrypt later, I think.
Yeah, picking up on that final one, this is perhaps one of the most urgent challenges we have, is that we know that governments and large, bad actors are harvesting data now on a daily basis, so huge amounts of data in anticipation of being able to decrypt it later. So this has always happened, if we're honest. It's something that states naturally do, but the prospects is now closer than ever of being able to decrypt the data that is being stored. So I think this.
So that means
this
that
isn't a future threat. This is a current threat.
Yeah, so that means, I guess, for the data that has a long shelf life, we need to be thinking about how to protect it today.
By the way, this also goes for everybody's intellectual property. So it's drug discovery, the lot. Fortunately, a global community of cryptographers has been working on new forms of mathematical challenge for the last 10 years, culminating in a competition run over the results of which were announced last year by NIST.
Yeah. So so the global cryptography community has come together over the last sort of 10, 15 years because we knew that this problem was coming. So this is not a surprise. I think now it's becoming a lot more imminent. But what the global cryptography community has been doing is they've been working on the next generation of cryptography algorithms that can withstand the attack of both a classical system and a quantum computer. And what these algorithms really are is they're based on hard mathematical problems that even a quantum computer cannot solve. These cryptography algorithms, you may have heard the acronym PQC, post-quantum cryptography. That's what these are. So these are algorithms that are potentially resistant to attacks from quantum computers.
What this translates into, though, in terms of, for example, an enterprise or a company wishing to upgrade its cryptography systems, is something which is, some of you might remember, well, might not, the Y2K transition, where we had to employ an army of IT contractors to correct a software bug that would result in systems falling over as the century flipped. In comparison to the level of transformation that's needed to embed an entirely new generation of cryptographic principles into every one of our technology, business, and commercial domains, that actually looks like quite an easy challenge. And if we consider for a moment an industry like telecommunications, where we operate with multiple generations of technology, we're heavily dependent on standards that allow phones and networks to interoperate with each other. We need these new algorithms to be baked into all downstream standards in a way that we, as an industry, can start to use them. And this goes not just for telco, but for all industry sectors.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem it's a global problem. It applies to all sectors. The good news is that often with security, we don't necessarily have anybody sort of call us 10 years in advance and say, by the way, there's a problem coming. In this case, we do. So in this case, we do have the opportunity to prepare. We do have the opportunity to make this transformation, which it will be difficult, because cryptography transformation is not easy because of how embedded cryptography is in everything we do, in open source, in the standards. It's not easy, but we can make it easier. We can make it more efficient by preparing in time. And this is really one of the key messages: is we do need to prepare. We have sort of an unprecedented opportunity where we did get that call 10 years in advance to say, this problem is coming. And I think we'll be talking a little bit about the work that IBM and Vodafone are doing in this space, because certainly for telecommunications, this is going to be, it's going to be hard, it's going to be tricky, but it's going to be so, so vital in maintaining the trust, the integrity of the networks that we rely on literally for everything we do today.
So 3 things we want to pull out from the work that we've been partnering on with IBM. The first is around our quantum-safe transformation journey. So this is how us as an example of an enterprise company that needs to transform the cryptography it uses. So we are developing the skills and the know-how and the knowledge to build accurate inventories of where we've got cryptography across all of these systems, perform risk-based business assessments to understand where the priorities sit in terms of which sources of data ought to be protected first, and build a transformation journey that allows us to embed these new algorithms in the right time frame. We're also working, IBM and Vodafone are co-leading an industry effort to make sure that as we enter this new quantum era, all of the technology suppliers, the mobile network operators, and digital content providers are preparing for this shift, and that the standards are in place, and that the right guidance and I guess insight is shared with that community.
Well, I mean, quantum safe is a team sport. There's no single enterprise that can do this by themselves. So we need the standards to be there. We need the entire ecosystem to come together to sort of help prepare for ultimately what's going to be a very significant transformation.
And the final thing I'll call out is that we've taken some of the newly standardized algorithms and we've applied it to a live security product that Vodafone sells in several markets to millions of customers. We did a very successful demonstration at the Mobile World Congress a few months ago.
February,
which we'll be very happy to share with anybody who's interested. But basically, it's demonstrating how we can take these new forms of cryptography and apply it already to security products that we sell. So we can then start to prepare to offer customers access to a security service that's already prepared against the threat of quantum safe. The threat of quantum by using quantum safe cryptography. So I think, Lory, that's pretty much what we wanted to say.
Yeah, so thank you for listening, and any questions?
Anyone brave enough for a question on quantum technology?
One moment. Ich habe ein Mikro, deswegen wird es einfacher.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I just wanted to ask in terms of, because you said if the other side is already harnessing this knowledge, we're talking about the bad people, aren't they doing this on a parallel level? So everything that you're developing, they're developing, or in what sense? I mean, I have absolutely no idea of what I'm talking about, but this is just something that I was like...
Yeah, I think what we need to think about is that every powerful technology can be misused. And there are many examples of that in the past. And, even most recently, if we think of AI, which is another powerful technology that that has now sort of got into the mainstream, every technology has the power to be misused. And there are people that are determined to do that. And we know that quantum technologies are being developed. They're being developed in multiple places. Some are developing those technologies for some of the things that we discussed. So, this is revolutionary in terms of materials, revolutionary in terms of drug discovery. So there are some absolutely groundbreaking things, positive things that we can do with the technology. Undoubtedly, in parallel, there are people that are also looking, as these technologies mature, as the technology evolves, at how they can misuse it. But that's true of any powerful technology. And what we can do, and what we all need to do, is prepare to mitigate that risk. So in the same way, we hear talk about ethical AI, we hear talk about, how can we ensure that the technology is used not for nefarious reasons and not for harm, is to prepare and to look at how we mitigate that risk. And I think in the case of quantum, that's also true.
Gibt es weitere Fragen aus dem Plenum? Das sieht nicht so aus. Dann erstmal danke und einen großen Applaus für Lory und
Thank you.
Thank you.
Luke.